from the Herbert I. Greenberg Studios at WHIG, it's Up Late with Sam Bass.
Thank you, Scott Smith, and to everyone watching the show, welcome. So if I'm looking a little more sparkly than usual tonight, don't blame a day at the beach or a relaxing round of golf or a trip to the ABC store, which I love all three of those things. It's just because I just came from a place that truly knows how to make things sparkle and bring the glitz. Our presenting sponsor, Sparkling Creations. They're right here in Rocky Mount at 976 North Winstead Avenue. And trust me, if you're planning anything from a wedding to a backyard birthday bonanza, they've got what you need. Tents, chairs, bouncy houses, basically everything but your in-laws. I personally can't resist the idea of something they've got called a cocktail corner. I've got to find out more about that. But just go and you'll thank me later. And while you're out there on your grand tour of treasures in the area, head on over to Wilson and drop in on my friend Phil Sabella at Phil's Music Exchange. This place is a time machine and a treasure chest rolled all into one. Vinyl, video games, memorabilia, fresh finds galore. Hey, and mark your calendars for July 12th. That's Phil's next record show. If you've never been, prepare the senses because it's kind of like Comic-Con, but for your ears. Now, speaking of local treasures, did you catch part one of our double feature with Ira David Wood III last week? Or David, as I call him, because we're really good friends. This man has so many stories that we needed 2 episodes just to scratch the surface. Stage legend, storyteller extraordinaire. What a joy to have him on. We're going to get right into the second part of my interview with him in just a second, right after I refill my glass. So I'm going to get serious for a moment. I know you don't expect that from me. But I want to take a moment to honor the memory of Charlie Gaddy. We have a great connection with the people over at WRAL. We've had a lot of them on here. Charlie was the esteemed Walter Cronkite of North Carolina, who passed away just a couple of weeks ago at the remarkable age of 93. Charlie was a familiar presence on local television for many years, earning the trust and admiration of viewers across the state of North Carolina. He was also a dear friend to some of our Up Late guests, Ira David Wood III, for example, and David Crabtree. May Charlie rest in peace. So sit tight. We're going to be right back with round 2 of my interview with Ira David Wood III.
If you're planning a party, wedding, birthday party, baby shower, or corporate event, Sparkling Creations can make it memorable for you. With tents, tables, bouncy houses, and more. We can even provide a fire pit for outdoor events. If you want to be adventurous, we have a mechanical bull. You name the event, and Sparkling Creations has you covered. Located at 976 North Winstead Avenue, Sparkling Creations, where we make every event sparkle.
Phil's Music Exchange of Wilson offers thousands of vinyl LPs, CDs, cassettes, 8-tracks. They even have reel-to-reels, DVDs, Blu-rays, VHS, video games, an abundance of music for the music lover. Check them out today. Phil's Music Exchange in Tarboro, 207 West Tarboro Street, downtown Wilson, or philsmusicexchange.com.
Well, I think everything's turned out pretty good for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, when we were growing up in Enfield, we were told that if we lived a good life, when we died, we went to Rocky Mount. And here I am. And here is the great skyline of Rocky Mount. You can't mistake this.
Yes.
It's, you know, so I got to just tell you what an honor it is.
Well, it's great having you here. But you mentioned working on the Lost Colony. Mm-hmm. And so that is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest outdoor drama in the country. And I believe you had the honor of working with maybe Andy Griffith's kids. Is that what you told me about? Tell me a little bit about him. And was he the wholesome sheriff-like figure that we all saw on Andy Griffith's show? Or was he kind of mischievous? And there was something about a volleyball game I heard about.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about a little bit about this.
Andy, when he was in the show,
Okay.
and he played Sir Walter Raleigh, the same role that I played, he asked for an advance in his salary, a week salary in advance, and they turned him down. And this is before he was famous. So when he got to be famous, of course, the Lost Colony beat a path to his door, said, Andy, we know you want to help the Lost Colony out, maybe do some PSAs for us. And Andy said, no, I don't think so. You know,
He remembered.
Yeah, he remembered. And he didn't go back to the show for a long time. But then his kids, Sam and Dixie, were cast in the show. And that was the first year, my first year, I was playing Sir Walter Raleigh. I had to walk out on the stage for my first entrance and pick up a child and put him down and muss his hair and walk over and meet Queen Elizabeth. Well, the child was Sam, Andy's son. And because Andy knew they were in the show, he crept up to the top of the hill that night to see the show, saw me lift Sam up. So the next day at the cottage that 7 of us guys had rented, the phone rang and they said, Wood, you got a call? I answered it and I said, hello, it's David Wood. And says, well, this is Andy Griffith. And I said, yeah, I'm Queen Elizabeth. Who the heck is this? He says, no, this is Andy Griffith. Well, when you recognize that voice,
right.
I dropped to my knees and genuflected, as everybody on Roanoke Island does, or did. And he said, you play volleyball? I said, yes, sir. He said, you want to play tomorrow? The next day was Sunday, our day off. I said, yes, sir. He said, you be at my house at 7:30 a.m. Yes, sir. So I had a little Honda 50 motorcycle. The next morning, I rode up and down the driveway that led to Andy's house, because you couldn't see his house from the road. I rode up and down until a car passed, so they could see me turn into Andy Griffith's driveway. And it was, yes, I'm going to see Andy. He's an old friend of mine. So we got there, and he took us down to his pontoon boat. You got on that boat. He served Bloody Marys. Everybody had to have a Bloody Mary. We would go out into the Roanoke Sound to a sandbar. He docked the boat there, get off, put up a volleyball net, and you had to play all day until the sun went down. That was the only time he would load the boat up and bring you back to shore. And he cheated. And
I don't believe it.
Oh, gosh, he cheated. He hated to lose, and it took 3 summers for us to get a team together to beat him. And I worked on this team. I mean, I got 3 of the best looking female dancers in that show. And I said, wear the smallest bikinis you can put on your body. I had t-shirts made that said, eat it, Griffith. And I told them, I told the girls, I said, you wear these t-shirts and don't take them off until I tell you. And we had practiced all summer long for this. So we got on the boat the next day. He came around with the Bloody Marys, and I put my hand and said, no. He said, oh, come on, you know, we always have a Bloody Mary. I said, not today. And he looked at me, he said, you figured it out, haven't you? I said, yeah, you're coming down today, Andy. So we went out and we played, and we were tied up all day long. They would beat one, then we'd come back and beat one, and we just stayed tied. Sun was getting ready to set. We knew this was the last game. And I turned to my girls on my team and I said, okay, take the t-shirts off. And the t-shirts came off and those bikinis were there. And those Oiland boys couldn't keep their eye on that volleyball. And Andy was going, quit looking at the girls, just keep your eye on the ball. They couldn't do it, and we beat him. And that night, we all went out to eat at the Seafair restaurant over in Nag's Head, and we asked the owners, and we knew, we said, would you bring us a telephone to our table, and they did. And every 20 minutes, we'd dial Andy's number, and he'd answer. We go, "Who won the game today?" Poof, and hang up. He never forgot it. You could just feel the steam coming off of that phone. But he was an amazing guy, and became a really, really good friend and supporter of the Lost Colony.
I just saw where he would have turned. Is that 99? I just saw his birthday like a week or so ago.
I think I think that may be right.
So how old were you during all this?
I was in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, and he asked to be buried right there on his property, overlooking the Sound, and the only thing he said was, "I don't want airplanes or helicopters flying over, getting pictures."
Right.
And the FAA, they don't block out airspace for everybody, but for Andy Griffith, they did. And for 2 hours, it was a no-fly zone over his house. And the last thing he said to his best friend, former mayor of Mandio, was, "John, dig it deep." And he talked about his grave. He's buried under a tree right there on his property.
Very cool.
And he said, "Dig it deep."
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. You played some legendary roles in some legendary plays. Let's talk about a few of them. First up, To Kill a Mockingbird. What made you choose that particular play to be in, and did you put your own Ira David Wood spin on it?
I was actually asked to be in that play in Fort Worth, Texas, at Casa Mañana, which is a theater there. And they lost the actor who was playing Atticus, and the producer called me. The producer was our first Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. Huh. So he called up, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm walking around a shopping center mall." He said, "Well, what I want you to do is get on a plane, come to Fort Worth and play Atticus Finch." And I went, "Oh, man, I'm there." So I flew down, did the role. I loved Gregory Peck when he did the role. When I did the role, I did a kind of an homage to Peck. In the movie, he puts his glasses up on his forehead when he's shooting the rabid dog, and when he's trying to aim, the glasses come down just like that, and he sits them back up. He tries to aim, and they come down again, and finally he takes them off. Well, I did that in the production in Texas, and again in North Carolina when we did the show in Raleigh. And the reviewer said, "It was wonderful," said that was only one little hang up. Wood had a problem with his glasses. And said, no, it was planned. Come on.
Apparently hadn't seen the movie.
No, I guess, or forgot about it. But, to say those lines and to deliver that sermon, because I think that play is a sermon. And I just loved the role. I did.
So you were also in Peter Pan. I know you didn't play Peter Pan himself. No. Tell me a little bit about that.
I always loved Captain Hook. I loved Cyril Richard when he did it. And I love a good villain. And Captain Hook is a great villain. The kids love him. So he's a villain you love to hate, or hate to love, or I don't know. So they asked me if I would play Hook. And I said, absolutely. And they gave me a real steel hook. And I had to jump overboard at one point. And I mean, you hold that thing way out because you hit the mattress off stage. I was always worried that I would impale myself when I jumped, but had a lot of fun with that.
Well, another one was Man of La Mancha. Tell me about that.
That's a beautiful role. I played Don Quixote 3 times in 3 different productions. Again, to say those lines and to sing The Impossible Dream with a 30-piece orchestra. I had never done that in my life. And I don't read music, but I listened to the song enough, and I told the conductor, I said, "I'm watching you. You lift that baton. On the downbeat, I'm starting to sing." And I did, and it was a game changer for me. I don't consider myself a singer, but if I'm doing a role and the character is singing, I can get behind that. And I love that role. I love that role.
There's something I post every Memorial Day. It's the episode of Gomer Pyle where he sings Impossible Dream.
Oh.
That is just, Jim Nabors singing that song is just, I love it. I post it every Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Great thing. Another thing was The Sound of Music with the Von Trapp great-grandchildren.
Yes. I played Captain Von Trapp. They were at the perfect age to play the kids in the show. Mm-hmm. And what an honor that was. And we toured the show to Las Vegas. And we played in the biggest theater on the Strip. And my dressing room was, it was the Star dressing room. When you get a Star dressing room in Raleigh or here in your studio, it's, it's okay. But at Vegas, it's like a mansion. I had a room that was its own bar. I had another reception room, and you had to go through all of these to even get to the room where you would put your makeup and costume on.
Wow.
So I said, look, cancel my room in the hotel. I can just live here. It's great.
So you also worked with Sally Struthers and the Full Monty. So to remind everybody, she was on All in the Family. That's what she's known for. She was married to Meathead. Tell me about working with her.
Sally was amazing. I was in my 60s then, and they called and said, would you play a role in the Full Monty? And I said, are you going to do the Full Monty? And the producer said, no, you'll wear flesh-colored underwear.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, the Full Monty has a strip scene at the final moment when they hit the note and the final song. They are full frontal nudity, except the lights are behind you and they turn them up so bright that you're basically a silhouette. Mm-hmm. So I told the producer, I said, you want me at the age of 60 to come and do a nude scene for you? Where were you when I was 20 years old? And so anyway, we got there and the costumes arrived, and I went to look at them, and there were police uniforms that break away. Mm-hmm. You just grab your pants and pull them, and they break away. And finally, you're on stage wearing a red G-string. And you've got your policeman hat, and at the very end, the hat covers what's left. And you rip the G-string off, and then at the final moment, you're like this. So I get there my first day, and Kingsley Leggs, who's one of the actors who's in the show, looked at me and he said, now this is your first time, isn't it? I said, yeah, Kingsley, it is. He said, now don't be nervous. Don't be nervous by the nude scene. And I said, look, I'm not nervous. They told me we're wearing flesh-colored underwear. He just sat down and laughed. He said, you believe that? So I had signed the contract. I was stuck. And my mother-in-law came and saw the show and was so nervous when the moment came and we were backlit, so you couldn't see anything but the silhouette. She burst into tears. She was so relieved. She started crying. So that was my nude scene with Sally, and Sally was the funniest thing too, and kept us all in stitches during the rehearsal, and during the run of the show, she was the one who just got everybody ready for the show every night. I just adored her. And listening to her stories, anytime I work with anybody like that, I'm just going, tell me stories. And I just sit and listen, and she had wonderful stories, obviously.
Well, that's kind of the way I am right now. So these are great stories. So I do want to ask you about one more, The Lion in Winter. So you've tackled royalty, power struggles, and medieval drama. You also played this with your son, Ira David Wood IV. Is that correct?
That's correct. He played one of my sons, and I'm Henry II. And of course, Peter O'Toole and Katharine Hepburn did the movie, and it was wonderful. They had a first-time director directing the movie. It was Anthony Hopkins' first movie.
Wow.
And they were telling interviewing Hepburn, and they said, well, this director did a great job, capturing everything on film. And she said, oh my God, all he had to do was aim the camera and turn it on.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, because the talent they had. Mm-hmm. And it's a meaty show. It's wonderful. It's got laughs in it, and it has some poignant moments. I love those plays that do that, where you laugh a lot, and then something turns and you're crying in the next breath. An example, and I do that for you very quickly. Man of La Mancha, at the very end when Don Quixote is dying, and he's sung the impossible dream, and he's talked about the quest, but he's lying in bed dying, and Dulcinea, who he, given his heart to, is by the bed, and she says, you spoke of the dream, you must remember. And of course the audience is just, oh, he's dying. It's a very sad thing. And she starts to say, to dream the impossible dream, but you have to remember to fight the unbeatable foe. And the light kind of comes back in his eyes, and he says, to right the unrightable wrong. And she goes, yes. And the audience goes, yes, he's got it. And then he goes, to dream the impossible dream. And the audience is like, yes. And he gets out of bed, and his Sancho says, but my lord, you're not well. And he says, oh, what matter wounds a knight. And he goes back into the chorus of the impossible dream, and he gets to the end where he says, whithersoever they blow, onward to glory. Go. And he dies.
Oh, gosh.
That's the power of theater, good theater, in 3 breaths. Go. He takes the audience from the mountaintop to the valley, and they're just like this, and in 3 breaths, they're crying. Mm. That is amazing theater, when you can move an audience like that in real time, live on a stage. And it's like footprints in the sand. The next day, it's going to be different. You may say the same lines, but theater is of the moment. So to do that every night and to feel, there's a lot of power when 2,500 people don't move, and at the 3rd breath, tears are going to start. Mm. It's a wonderful thing that happens.
That's just a powerful description right there of theater to me. Mm-hmm. I do want to get into another one you did called The Father. Mm-hmm. You did this with your daughter, Evan Rachel Wood. So I'm going to talk about her for a second. When she was young, did you ever say, yeah, she's definitely going to be famous, or did she just suddenly surprise you?
I walked by the dressing room, actually the performance space one day when she was small, and we were setting lights for a performance that we were going to do, and she was sitting on stage in a pool of light, and she was making up a monologue. And I stopped in the doorway and watched her, and that moment I knew she was to the manner born. And I know that if you love what you're doing, and I knew she had a passion for it, that she was going to go places. She played Helen Keller in a production that I directed when she was little, and blew me away. And that's when I knew, okay, you've got a shot at this. And she's really gone places and done things, and to be a fly on the wall. I don't go to a lot of locations with her. When she worked in the movie with Al Pacino, I said, Dada's coming, because I wanted to see the man work.
Right.
And he was phenomenal. But I love the way that she selects the work that she's going to do. She's been offered some big roles, franchise roles, that she's turned down. She looks for shows with a message that she feels she wants the world to hear. And I'm very proud of her for that.
I bet you are. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, every dad's proud of their kids and their daughters, especially I have a daughter. But she's just done such great things, and I know you got to be proud. So I want to skip a little bit ahead. Since we're talking about her, let's talk about your film career. So you've worked with some big names: Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, Burt Reynolds. Were you in Smokey and the Bandit?
No, I was.
James Earl Jones.
I was, yeah, James Earl. Oh, man.
So I do know that Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood were both in Brainstorm.
That was the movie. And I was cast as Natalie's boyfriend because she and Christopher are on the outs at the beginning of the movie. And I played the best man at her wedding with Christopher. And I got to kiss Natalie Wood.
Wow.
And it was so great because the director said, let's do it again. And I said, yes.
Messed it up as many times as I can.
Oh, yeah. And as I recall, she was a great kisser. I love doing that scene. And
This is information, people, you do not get anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, she was wonderful. I loved working with her and Christopher. Again, people that I could sit and ask questions about the movies that he had done and acting. And I was told my first day on the set that the director would get the wide shot, and then he would do the close-ups. He would do Natalie's first, he would do Christopher's, and then he would do mine. And the makeup guy said, now just so you know, they'll leave. Christopher and Natalie, they'll go, and the script girl will read your lines. And I said, okay. So came time, they did the master shot, they did Natalie's close-up, they did Christopher's. Doug Trumbull, the director, said, okay, you guys are dismissed, we'll do David's close-up. And Christopher said, no, I'll stay. So Christopher was doing the lines off camera, and he didn't have to. And I looked over at my makeup guy, and he went. So I knew that was kind of special. And afterwards, Christopher threw me a line, an ad-lib line, and I answered him an ad-lib. I can't tell you what it was, but he loved it. And afterwards, he said, that was really amazing. You just...
That was really amazing.
Yeah.
Can you do a Christopher Walken?
I can't. I've tried. My son Ira can do it.
I bet.
He can do it just perfectly. But I said, no, you gave me a line, and then I'm in character. I'm going to respond in character. But he just thought that was... And I said, yeah, that's what you do.
That's cool. Now, this is Natalie Wood's last movie.
Yes.
She tragically died during the filming of it.
Yes.
How did that affect that movie?
Well, they had to go back and reshoot some of the scenes. Doug Trumbull thought that MGM was going to cancel the project and get the insurance money. So when he was editing the movie, he locked himself in the editing room. They had to slide his dinner under the door. He wouldn't come out because he was afraid they were going to get the print and then cancel the movie. So they only had a couple of scenes to reshoot, and thank goodness they did. It's really kind of a cult classic now. The idea was it was going to be 70 millimeter, which was unbelievable when you saw it on a 70 millimeter on a large screen. And but what was going to have to happen was they were going to have to redo all the movie theaters in the country in order to show this movie the way Doug envisioned it, and that couldn't happen. And then Natalie's death, as tragic as it was. I was in Wilmington getting ready to do my one-man show of Truman Capote's A Christmas Memory, and the stage manager came on stage and said, you've got a telephone call, and I went off stage to get it. And it was National Enquirer. And the guy said, we have two stories we're going to run. One is favorable to Natalie Wood, one is unfavorable. And based on what you tell us, we're going to run one or the other.
Pressure.
Well, I knew that wasn't true. I think they were pressuring me to get me to say something that they could print. So I just said, listen, I'm recording this conversation from this point on, and if you print anything and say I said it, I hope you got good attorneys. And that kind of pushed it away. But I really understood what these stars go through when I went to the premiere out in LA. They put me in a limo with Cesar Romero.
Wow, the Joker.
Yeah. So I'm riding with Romero and to the opening, and I had seen Betty Davis arrive at a Pigmentosa Foundation gala, and her limo pulled up, 2 wheels on the curb. The chauffeur opened the door. Betty Davis got out. She had a little basket with orchids in it. She stopped. Now, all the way around her were the paparazzi. And they had been yelling at everybody. Over here, look over here. Sam, look at me, look at me. And she stepped out of the car. There wasn't a sound. She started here. She went around, made eye contact with every paparazzi's lens, stopped, went back around. In case you didn't get it, I'm looking the second time. She made contact with everybody and walked in, and nobody said one more, Miss Davis. And I watched that. So when I walked out of the premiere, that's exactly what I did, and it worked.
Wow. Well, she had Betty Davis eyes, right?
For different reasons, it worked. Nobody yelled back at me.
So I'm going to ask you one thing. One of our sources, be unnamed, mentioned you.
Yes, I know who it was.
Something about snake sushi. Snake sushi? You actually made this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. Made sushi.
Snake sushi.
Whoa. I was in China, my trip to China. It was our last night, and they said, we're going out to a snake restaurant. And I said, qu'est-ce que c'est snake restaurant? And they said, oh, they serve snake. And I went, you're kidding. So what I found out they do is they bring the snake out in a basket, just like the peddler brings your steak out and you pick the steak and the thickness. You say, whoa, I'll have the copperhead. They take the snake, tuck the tail under their arm, take a little scalpel, slice the belly, squeeze the bile duct out. Bile duct falls into plate. And that's what you eat. And I said, folks, I will crawl on my hands and knees to the next golden arch. I'm not eating this bile duct from a snake.
I don't blame you. So we've got another unnamed source whose name I will not reveal, but it rhymes with David Crabtree.
Yes.
Also tell me you're an expert on the Kennedy assassination. You've even written a book on it. So be honest, how deep into the rabbit hole have you gone? Are we talking a dedicated wall with red strings connecting photos? Is that kind of a commitment or what?
I am deep in that rabbit hole.
Wow.
I've researched it for over 40 years. And I have a chronology, which is the result of it all. And the chronology is about 2,000 pages. The more I learn, the more I realize how much there is left to learn. And now with the latest release of files, we're learning even more.
Right.
And I think now there's no question. There's always been the feeling among the researchers that elements of the CIA were involved.
Right.
Now we know they were. And it just has justified what the researchers have thought for years.
I want to tell you something. We're running out of time here. We've got so much more to cover. I've had to skip over. So you're going to have to come back.
I would love to.
So this is probably going to be a 2-part episode at this time. But look, I want to thank you so much, David. Very nice to have you here in Rocky Mount.
Nice to be had.
Back near your home. Nice to be had. And hope to see you again soon.
Would love that. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that great interview with Ira David Wood. And listen, every Thursday night at 10 o'clock, it's Up Late with Sam Bass. Also, Saturday nights at 10. Don't miss it. Next week, the mayor of Rocky Mount himself will be right here, Sandy Robertson. Guaranteed to be a great episode, so don't forget to tune in. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.